So, what the hell is didactics? Because you've probably never heard of the word before. Didactics is a philosophy that emphasizes instructional and informative qualities in literature, art, and design. Didacticism is an emerging conceptual approach that is driven by the urgent need to explain. A lot of work these days revolves around the idea that there must be a tangible knowledge or experience to be gained from it. Shows like Ergo Proxy, Tatami Galaxy, or even Katanagatari are built on the foundation of being different or intellectual, therefore more appealing. But what I've come to understand is that seeking tangible benefit from your entertainment only sets you up for failure in a way that stunts your growth to understand entertainment value and personal connection. Over time, I've come across many different individuals with certain predicaments when it comes to how they critique or understand media, and the underlying problem people have is finding their definable taste and appeal. The term didactics can be traced all the way back to the Enlightenment movement, where John Amos Comenius, considered the father of modern education, authored Didacta Magna as a way to help his students understand and follow the Bible, where the contemporary strategy of didactics through content is to empower or enlighten the student to free them from shackles of ignorance. The crux of didacticism and its relationship to ourselves lies in the didactic triangle. The triangle has three sides to it, and they are all cohesively linked. The teacher is the messenger to the content and the student. They seek to explain the content in a way that is comprehensible to the student, but in this, they have to be conscious of all sides and their relation to each other. The student is by far the most dynamic of the three, where their ultimate goal is to understand both the teacher and the content. They are tasked with trying to gain a higher knowledge from the content through their perspective and then gain the perspective of the teacher to gain a comprehensive foundation to an opinion. And at the top of the heap, content is the guiding force behind both the teacher and the student, pushing forth the knowledge that it holds. I have a few problems with this triangle, especially in the teacher area. Teachers are definable among several terms and not specifically limited to just learning institutions. Teachers are simply everywhere in our lives through art, work, family, etc. So this in mind, I would like to pose a question. Since the teacher is essentially interpreting the content through their perspective and then giving that perspective to the student, wouldn't that make the content their own? Since no interpretation is truly correct, we would need to hold to the notion that teachers are actually students. And since the heart of didactics revolves around the question, what is to be learned, it only makes sense that the relationship between them is intentional. So, with this in mind, I want to discuss this concept through an example. I chose the Konosuba movie, Legend of Crimson, for this purpose because it perfectly exemplifies this concept in action. As of now, I have this movie scored at a 10 out of 10 without hesitating to move it down once. The reasoning behind why I love this movie so much is simply because it's just damn fun. It's so endearing and powerful as a film that it doesn't need to be intellectually stimulating or be different to gain traction. It takes the ideas founded in the show and expands on them in clever comedic interactions instead of hyper-focusing on a narrative. But if we take the notion that didacticism provides worth and value to a piece, it would seem very idiotic to put this movie where I have it. Didacticism is the enemy of true fun, and no concept should permanently stunt your ability to conceivably be entertained by any sector on the spectrum of fun. Although I do hold some series in high regard for their ability to have different animation styles or characters, I currently would never praise a show for being different. That sentiment is a tunnel vision for critics and operates under an archaic sense of taste dictation. Let's say, for the argument, that you strip the Konosuba movie of its comedy, characters, animation, and voice actors. All of a sudden, you have a very boring 1 hour and 30 minutes of characters talking in a generic isekai film. Although comedy isn't something most people heavily see as an intellectual or valuable learning experience, nailing comedy as well as incorporating it as consistently as the movie does is a feat underappreciated. I have disdain for didacticism for this reason. It serves as both a bad structure to enhancing a piece of media and also fails as a metric to figure out what can be technically considered a good piece of work. Didacticism is a lecture to the student at essence, and whether that lecture is conceivably connectable to your understanding is purely up to the quality of the work itself. The content does the heavy lifting and the disciples do all the microanalysis. And since humans innately desire content to consume, this triangle is a trap for intellectuals as well. In a Q&A with author Robert McKee, who most popularly wrote This, This, and This, he talks about a concept I had yet to consider, which was clarity. When you're watching a didactic story, the ideas are really clear. There's no doubting of these ideas. There's no struggle by the character to understand or come to terms with these thoughts. They are on one side of the fence or the other. Didacticism is cookie-cutter and straightforward. It is typically the enemy of interpretation and combats your individual confusions to the piece's meaning because there is only one intended meaning. But you could counter-argue this and say, well, I don't like looking for inherent meanings in pieces without intention for meaning. And you would be right about that, relatively speaking, but looking for a better understanding of art comes from harboring more than just the singular. There must be conflict because without conflict there cannot be advancement, but only stagnation. And to learn, limited by a lack of interpretation, kills what makes humans so special. And that is my short thesis on didacticism. Thanks for watching.